why is it that things are always going up? Christmas should be a time that we should enjoy. We should celebrate. A lot of people are even trying to save for the next year, save for rent, save for school fees. So it's not even everybody that gets to enjoy. Most of the time, it's mainly the diasporans that come and really enjoy themselves because they are coming with hard currency. By the time it is changed to Naira, I mean,
we need to put our focus on the different parts of transportation, waterways, the train, not the one that we sent the Warri Itakpe rail parking for us to go and maintain and put it in shape. Then 3 days after it resumed, it derailed again. These are not this sort of news or stories, does not encourage investors to want to come into such a system.
This is SOUQ Business Landscape. Good morning and welcome to your regular breakfast show. This is SBL. We are live and reaching you from SOUQ News Television. So wherever you are, it's time to gather up. Those apps, if you're watching us from the phone or your TV, those beautiful smart televisions, gather up. Call up your friends, your neighbors, and tell them it's time for us to talk. It's SBL, and we look at stories, not just trending stories, stories that affect business development and also finance, money. We talk. So it doesn't matter where you are watching us from, your country. How is it doing? Is business nice? Are policies going okay? We talk about them. Then for everyone out there, remember we are almost winding down the year, so businesses are checking their books and seeing if they made profit and better ways of getting the year done. So everybody has to play their part. So wherever you are, make sure the year ends on a very good note on our side, on your side. So hey, 2026 is coming and we have to work better and smarter. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. I am here with the men I always say you should go into a fight with, and they say no, we're not fighting. But today they are here with me. I have the knight and I have the fair one. Your Excellencies, please join me as I welcome. We pray. You're welcome to SBL.
Good morning, SOUQs. It's good to see your face again. And good morning to our viewers. I'm sure, like I just said, it's good to see his face again. We're here.
The face didn't go far. The knight.
Good morning, SOUQs. Good morning, Onipri. Good morning. I'm Olumide Shokan. So glad to be here. Let's talk business, economy, and development.
Okay. Now, it's Christmas and prices are heading almost 100% ahead of Christmas. Should this continue? Now, domestic routes have more than doubled ahead of Christmas season, driven by surge in passenger demand. Definitely, people are traveling, and shortage of available aircraft. That's always been the excuses. Now, many travelers are now struggling to secure seats with tickets for popular routes that's between Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Enugu, selling out in advance. Most people do buy in advance. Now, this has jumped, in some cases, over 50%, in some cases, over 100%. And in some cases, if you are lucky to even grab a ticket on the day of your travel, which most likely will not happen, 250%. So right now, if you are getting tickets for 90,000, 85,000, that's if you pre-book. And if you get to the airport, you're getting tickets for over 100, some 200 and something thousand. That means by come traveling period, you will be getting tickets as high as 350,000. 400,000. We saw that happen last year. These are things we really need to sit and talk about. The distance you're flying has not changed. The consumption of fuel for the flight has not changed. They are not giving you extra chicken or cow leg for you to fly. Neither are they giving you extra gift for you to fly. So how can we really mitigate some of these things? Industry experts say the annual December travel rush is further compounding the situation, with more Nigerians seeking to return home for the holiday. Travel agencies advise early booking, while passengers are urged to brace for possible delays and cancellations. The development adds to the broader inflationary pressure on consumer during Nigeria's peak festive season. Now, let's bring this back home. We are looking forward to a season where tourism will be a major earner in Nigeria. now we have been blessed with a season during the end of the year, Christmas, a lot of festivities happen around the country, so people move around. So let's also see this as tourism. Why are we now having a case whereby that is when the aviation industry is cashing out?
Well,
should we not prepare for this as a normal chain of events through the year? I have a calendar for it.
in other climes, during the Yuletide season, you get discounts.
First, go down.
Fares go down, every other thing goes down. It's a season of celebration. It's supposed to be a season of love, which metamorphosed into what we now call Dirty December, whereby the diasporans come to Nigeria and come and have, a time of their life. And
For Lagos.
for Lagos and other parts of Lagos, because they don't all just converge in Lagos. Some go back to their villages.
Dirty December is Lagos.
They are Dirty
The
December,
Lagos.
but apart from Dirty December, some go to their villages, build health centers, houses, community outreach, and all that. So, if you look at it, businesses thrive during December because there's an influx of people coming in, and there are some that are going out. So they actually thrive. So I think one of the things that happens is some traveling agents, what they do is they buy these tickets before December to resell at a higher price.
Okay.
So, and it has become, Chooks, even growing up, we buy clothes by October.
Okay.
You try them on by November and you get to wear them by December. Why? Because people believe that by the time December comes, things just go up for no reason. It's a trend that we have sadly accepted, which shouldn't have been. So it has now cut across all sectors, all institutions, the aviation industry, our cashing out, everything. Now, there are other factors, of course, shortage of aircraft, operational, cost and all that. So what I would just like to advise now is the NCAA and the Federal Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. I think they need to partner and see how they can regulate these things, because it's not going to go down. Nigeria is the only place where things go down. Sadly, things go up. Sadly, it does not come down. So, I think it was last month I booked a flight from Lagos to Abuja, and it was about 200,000. It was lesser. I know the funniest thing is when you go on some of these sites, you see something like 180,000. That's the flight ticket. But by the time you get to the end of the page where you're about to pay, you realize that they've added some other things that you don't even know how it came about, and you just see 202,000. So they add some other things. And by the time you are ready to pay, you'll be like, but I saw 80,000. 80,000 was what was offered. So why am I, so there's a whole lot of things that is going on that I think, we need to see.
Holiday and party.
Yes.
Okay, now, Priye, let's get to the industry part of it. Let's get to the business part of it. People will say it's supply and demand. That there is more demand and there is less supply. But should that be what should push prices of tickets to well over 150%? What it was before?
Yeah, okay. So before now, I know several times we have had a conversation on this table where we started looking at aviation fuel and how that became one of the determining factors, or what determines the price of tickets. And that was not even during the festive season, where lots of domestic airline operators were crying out that aviation fuel had become very, very expensive. And if you look at another part of it, is that when aviation fuel became expensive, Dangote himself, when he came into the space, there was a time it came down briefly, then it spiked again. So when you look at it very well, and we made a calculation at that point in time, like 40% of the expense, the overhead expense of airlines goes to purchasing and accessing aviation fuel. And that is not good. 40% is a huge sum. So that has always been there. And we all know if we had put 1 + 1 together, that the festive season is going to go 3, if not 4 times that price, because they know the number of Nigerians that will be coming. As I'm talking to you, I'm aware of people who are coming to the country today from Canada and from Australia and from other parts of the world. They've already started coming in. And these airlines, I'm sure 3 months back, they had scheduled that, okay, this is where the price of flights is going to be. I know we are talking about domestic flight now, and I'm going towards the external flight. So it will also reflect in the domestic flight, and this is what we're having at the moment. Also, how many domestic airlines do we have? Do we have up to 50? No. Do we have up to 30? I doubt. I still have
On paper, yes. Operating,
operating, we have less than 20.
You have far less than 20.
Then, if we have far less than 20, what do you think this festive season people will need to move around the country? How these less than 20 domestic airlines that fly around the country, this is the time for them to cash out. Olumide was talking about this is the festive season. We should be working with love in business. Talking to local investors
when you say cash out could also mean that they have a full flight on every trip. Does that not also reflect cashing out? Must cash out be doubling the fare?
Okay, fine. Sometimes they may not really have full flights. Sometimes they may not, and you could see the partnership between these airlines. I want, if I'm going to mention the experience I had coming from Abuja to Lagos, and the experience a friend of mine had coming from Lagos to Port Harcourt, and from Lagos to Abuja, and Lagos to Kano. In fact, even to, is it Kebbi State, or one of these northern states, there were stopovers. Because some of the airlines felt that, okay, we only have a few people who bought ticket for this trip, and who knows, this airline is also flying the same route we're flying, and they are going. So we had to partner with them, pay some amount of the money, bring the passengers on board that airline, but tell them that, you know what, they don't even tell you until the day you're going to take your flight. And they're telling you that, look, if you're going to Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt, this is the flight. We are going to stop over here before we get here. Then we'll get to Abuja. And you just discover that specific day. And you
have connecting flight.
And you have connecting flight. And you will fume, but you know what? You have to be there. So you have to, but if you're going to be late for your meeting, then you're already late. So this is how they operate. When I mean cash out in the sense that this is the festive season. So let's do what we have to do. Let's get what we have to get from these people. And it looks like in a seasonal way, this is the time for them to get back. But it's also not good, not putting into consideration the people. Well, for them, it is business. And they will say that putting the people into consideration does not reflect in airline maintenance. In maintaining the aircraft. Putting the people into consideration does not reflect in the price for which we're buying aviation fuel, Jet One.
Putting the people, why not say putting the customer?
Putting the customer. Okay, fine. Putting the customer into concern. It does not reflect in the price of Jet A1 fuel.
But if you take the customer out of the equation, then there is no industry.
The customer wants to fly because they have businesses to catch up with. So the customers are at the mercy of the airlines.
Is it that way? Should it be that way, or it should be the other way?
Oh, it should be the other way when we have 50 domestic airlines actively flying, servicing 200 million people in the country. Then we can now begin to look at airfares dropping down to 35,000 naira.
Okay.
20,000. But you know what, Chooks? Even if we have 50 domestic airlines, if aviation fuel is still consuming 40% of the overhead cost of these airlines, are they going to come down?
Let me get this across to you before I get back to Lumide. Aviation fuel taking as much as taxes on that ticket. Because if you buy your ticket and look at it, taxes are taking more money than the airlines, than the aviation fuel.
Okay, so indirectly you're referring to the government. The government. No, the government have a serious, responsible role to play. And to also understand that the aviation industry is not only capital intensive, it is very, very technical, and the kind of manpower you need to operate in that space doesn't come cheap, and it requires, very delicate hands to manage. If the government is going to come down on that, and that is also providing a way of the source for IGR to the government, then the government will need to really pay attention to try to balance taxing the aviation or the airlines, and also balance enabling people to make use of these services.
How
do they balance that?
How can we reduce the amount of tax on each ticket?
Okay.
I don't know if once you pick up your ticket,
Yes,
just
you see
look
the
at
taxes, yes.
It's tax. Before you even see the airline face, and you now be wondering, did I come to this airport to pay tax? So how can we reduce that to be able to bring down the cost of the flight ticket?
The government will need to be intentional in reducing those taxes. Now, if the government is going to reduce that, the government will feel that it does not determine the price of the aviation airlines. On the part of the aviation airlines, part of the expense coming from either tax or Jet A1 fuel, or the maintenance cost, and of course salaries of personnel is also what determine the charges they are going to meet at. So it's a very, very delicate point, and they'll need both agencies, both the government and the industry stakeholders, leaders, to sit down and have a conversation.
Okay. While they are having that conversation, let's get this way. The aviation sector lost a lot of customers in the last 2-3 years because of cost of flying and what people were also earning. If you remember, not 4 or 5 years ago, you could get a ticket for 8,000 naira, 9,000 naira.
I booked a ticket from Lagos to Ibadan. I'm from Lagos to Abuja. 7,000. I booked it, I think, 3 weeks ahead.
Good. So, that particular initiative
was that 2 decades ago?
No, not long ago.
Not long ago.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
That particular initiative brought a lot of people to patronize flights, flying instead of going by road. Gradually, those set of customers have been phased out, because on the regular, your flight ticket now on the average is 150,000, which is somebody's full salary. Some people don't even end up to that.
Twice the minimum wage.
Twice the minimum wage. Okay, now let's look from the airline side of it. They give instance where, let's say, they take a full flight to Port Harcourt, let's say 2 days to Christmas, or during that particular. But for them to come back from Port Harcourt, to fly from Port Harcourt back to Lagos, sometimes they fly empty, because that is where traffic is facing. So we have less people living where the excitement is, where home is, to come back to the commercial nerve center or the work side of it. So they full, empty. So should they be charging me
for that?
This is quite.
If they don't charge you, who are they going to charge?
But I'm not sure whether you've heard this story about some flights doing stopovers within Nigeria. They pick from one particular state to drop.
Yes, it used to be very, very common between Calabar and Uyo.
Yes, I've seen videos of someone probably going from Abuja to Lagos, and the branch probably somewhere around the east, and he's wondering, what am I doing in this state? I'm supposed to take a direct flight straight. I have an appointment. So these are some of the ways that these airlines are trying to
minimize cost.
Then if you now look at the traffic, it picks up passengers, full plane, probably from Lagos to somewhere in Port Harcourt. Who are these people? Are they going there for business, or are they just going back home? That's one of the things we need to also look at. The influx of people they are taking to Port Harcourt. If the people they are taking to Port Harcourt are not going there to do business, you don't expect them to, come back with the same amount of passengers. It's now left to the people in Port Harcourt. What are they coming to Lagos to do? That was why Doctor said at a point that why are some of these governors building airports in a state where it's not commercially viable? Because if you are building an airport or something like that in a state that is not commercially viable, why are you doing it? Who are the customers? It's people who go there regularly for business that will fly those planes. And like, I don't know why I'm quoting Doctor this morning. Doctor said that it's the elite that fly. It's not the common man that fly. But that's not the case here. What I'm just basically saying is that some of these states.
And I say no to that.
I said no to that.
You said no to that. I also don't agree. But let's look at it. The people who are flying these planes are not the people earning minimum wage. They are business people. Most middle class or upper middle class.
But right now, it's the elite that fly.
Oh, well. Not just the elite.
For a ticket for 250,000 naira?
Not just the elite. You could have a business. Like, for instance, now, I have something to attend there. I would have to go. And if the people inviting me are willing to pay my ticket.
They are paying for the fare, okay. Yes. Okay, it's the elite that pay for the fare.
Okay, but see, one other thing we need to consider is this is where we begin to look at how, because the ripple effect of having 4-5 domestic refineries is very, very crucial.
Okay.
Dangote is in now. Of course, he's going to be producing Jet A1 fuel.
He's
already producing that, and he's going to be selling to domestic airlines. That is going to save them forex from buying from foreign refineries.
Okay.
It's going to save them lots of forex. And if it's going to save them lots of forex, then it's going to also reflect in the price. If the other few refineries that we are looking up to coming up next year, if they equally comes up, then we'll also be looking at a competition at the side, which would in itself contribute to lowering the price, notwithstanding the forces of demand and supply. Because when you have lots of supply, demand is supposed to go down. I mean, the price for demand is supposed to shrink a little bit. And that is what we are going to be, that is one of the ripple effects that we'll be having. Also, the government, to make the Nigerian roads less congested, we need to put our focus on the different parts of transportation. Waterways, the train, not the one that we sent the Warri Itakpe rail parking for us to go and maintain and put it in shape. Then 3 days after it resumed, it derailed again. These are not this sort of news or stories, does not encourage investors to want to come into such a system. And that's what we must be looking at. If we have lots, like I said, people who are producing the Jet A1s, and we are using that, and the flight fare we're now saying, let's say 20,000, 15,000 naira, you can move from Lagos to Osun State or to some other states, then we could, even at December, we will not be looking at, if the price were to double, triple, it can't even get to 100,000 naira.
Okay.
So if the government is going to put ears down, and also we should not always look at the federal government in some cases, look, state governors also, we need to start giving attention to the railroads in their state, just the way Lagos State is doing. And we begin to see where, if some state governors cannot do that, they should look for a viable option for interstate transport, to set up a transportation department to facilitate interstate movement.
Okay.
And if that can also be a source of IGR to those state governors. And of course, you're going to get good, comfortable. The thing is, Nigerians want comfort when they are doing business, most especially when the comfort comes in their movement and in their itinerary, moving from one place to the other. Just the way the BRT happened in Lagos State, and a lot of people rushed down there. People will leave the normal red and the black and yellow commercial vehicles and stand in the queue for 1 hour waiting for the BRT, which service at the moment now is not 100% good. It's not even 75 or 65% good according to the taste of Lagosians, but it's still far better than what was on ground. So people defer to it. When you provide services that will cater to the convenience of people, Nigerians will move towards that direction because all they are looking out for is convenience. But don't provide that services if it is the government, then the government does not have to pay specific tax. If it is private individuals, they are now left in the hands of either one union or non-state actors. That is going to be a very, very grave disadvantage.
Okay, so I'm looking at an airfare ticket of one of the popular airlines here. It says from Lagos to Abuja on a Friday, it's 225,100 naira.
200, is it okay? Is it
One way.
One way.
One way.
Is it picking up immediately, or you're buying in advance?
Friday. I'm assuming I'm booking for Friday.
For Friday, which
yes,
was 2 days ago.
2 days.
200 and something thousand.
225,100.
Good.
Now here's the breakdown. Airfare 157,600. Fuel surcharge is 52,000. Taxes 12,500, and travel insurance 3,000 naira.
Airfare is how much?
Airfare is 157.
That's like 85% of the money.
Hold on. By the time you now pick that ticket, hard copy of that ticket, you now see within that airfare, you now see some other taxes there too.
No, because airfare is solitary belong to the airline. The airfare solitary belong to the airline.
Should belong to the airline.
Of course, it belongs to them because he mentioned tax too. Olumide, if you can read out the tax again, the tax there is even less than 60,000 naira.
Tax is 12,500.
It's even less than 20,000 naira. So if that is what the government is levying as tax, I don't think the government is doing too much.
We are not arguing on this. I'm just telling you that by the time you see the hard copy of
the ticket
for
airfare,
you will see more tax on it. This is for public consumption, for us to be on the good side. Now let's look at this. You spoke something about states having transport organizations and transport firms.
Yeah.
We used to have that years back. Every state had one particular transport service that they were priding and pushing out there, and those from the states and outside the state were using them. I remember going to secondary school. Niger State had NSTA. Other states had the same thing too. Then we've moved, and we are seeing states that are coming up with airlines, partnering with private organizations.
Yes.
We have the Ibom Air.
Yeah.
We have the Enugu.
Enugu.
That just did this. And we're looking at ability of private companies that run aviation services to be able to acquire aircraft. That is one of their major issues. Now they have access to dry leasing. Some are following that route. But at the end of the day, these companies, these firms need to be profitable. But while they are being profitable, how much of a fleece is it going to be to the pocket of the consumer? If I have to cough out 200 and something thousand to fly to Abuja from Lagos on a Friday.
That means, first of all, you give and take. You're going and you're coming is almost 500,000.
Definitely.
It's almost 500,000. So I like to calculate it that way. Then you're going to get into a hotel.
The industry is not for the elite.
You're going to live in a hotel. You're going to stay in a hotel to do your business for a day or two, and then you will leave. So give or take, the lowest amount of money you're going to spend is between 800 and 1 million naira.
How is this business friendly?
Oh, it is not. It is not business friendly, and that is why. Let me make reference. From what administration? Okay, let's not even mention administration. From what time since 1999 did Lagos State start giving attention, like conscious, intentionally giving attention to road infrastructure? What was their plan? Probably at that time, they already had a plan. They are going to set up the BRT system. So they were giving attention to roads, to different areas in the state. So if the government is going to put its money in investing in its state, It's going to look at the kind of infrastructure that can sustain that investment, and at the same time, not only sustain the investment will be taking care of its own cost, paying the salaries of the staff, and also put the state in a different shape that is going to attract businesses to come there and do business. I said this earlier on. During the time when the Apapa port was over congested and the containers were not moving, the trailers were lining on the road from the Apapa port down straight to Surulere, Ojueleba itself, where you have the fire service, They were lining, I know what they kept to a part of the road. The trailers from Apapa down there,
Yes, sir.
they did not disrupt the movement of the movement of vehicles to and from Apapa to Maryland and to.
And that was Fashola's time.
Yes.
But they were causing traffic.
No, they didn't, because they maintained a part of the road. Because if you look at that Ikorodu axis, that road, that Alaka road, that administration expanded that road in such a way that trailers were parking at one side of the road and it did not disrupt the smooth movement of traffic.
There was an order at that time that they would not move till I think 9 or 10 p.m.
They stayed for more than 6 months on that road and it did not disrupt. Why? So other states should begin to take cue, because if you're going to develop your state as a state governor and you have, or there's an economic blueprint for your state to move forward, then you begin to look at long-term infrastructure development. And when you look at long-term infrastructure development, the ripple effect will attract foreign direct investors.
Can you tie this
with what we are talking about?
To the aviation sector.
Now, the aviation sector, you mentioned Ibom Air. You mentioned Ibom Air. You also mentioned the Enugu Air that came into the system recently. What do you think that is going to do? It's going to expand the number of competitors, that the domestic airlines that fly that route. And if the number is going to increase, it's also going to influence the fare, because I want to provide better service than you as a competitor. I want to make myself attractive. And if that means, like Dangote, reducing the price, even to my own extent, or if I can see that this week I already have people who are booking that my plane is full and I'm going from Enugu to somewhere else. Okay, we are going to be refunding 10,000 naira each from this airfare. It's a strategy for you to move people towards your direction. We spoke about the number of students that fly that route that should be using that. And of course, they're not going to be paying 250,000 naira if that's the price. So it also depends on the investors to generate creative ways to create profit. But that does not come easy given the mounting expenses that we currently have on ground.
Okay, there's this particular initiative that happened in India, just what we are facing right now. Flight tickets were very high. So like you said and doctor said, that flying was meant for
elite,
a class of people. So a set of young people came together and they were able to dry lease some aircraft and remodified it and brought down the fare.
Is it the Boeing plane?
Yes, so they had more seats, less load, less luggage. And now they were able to get the sector to let them fly to places that had a lot of passengers, but at the same time, they had faster routes. They go and they return. So that way, they kept profit up, but not as high as other aircraft. But they were able to service more people, and they brought down the fare significantly. We also have the same thing happening in the States. We have Spirit Airline. They do the same thing. They're not expensive as, in quote. Should we not be exploring means of getting more people to fly at cheaper rates?
I think that's the goal, but that would be the goal of the private investor.
Should we not have our own national carrier? This could have been an initiative that could have been done.
Most times when people talk about national carrier, now national carrier as in what sense? Owned by the country, because we have flag carriers.
Owned by the country.
Now, if we say national carrier and want it cheaper, are we looking at the country paying for the flight? I don't know if you understand.
This
are we looking at another rebate
this idea
that will be paid for by
that was muted in India? We could replicate it in Nigeria.
Yeah, but that came from private sources. So those that play in that sector, we've seen several companies come up and say, "Come, we can offer you cheaper flight." But at the end of the day, it was just for starting up. We won't mention names, but you know those, some with green, some with stars, and they say, "Okay, don't worry, you can come fly with us for 50,000." It's just by the time it started on normal ground, it's still the same jet others were using. In some cases, we're even smaller aircraft. But you know that at the end of the day, the fares were all going to match up.
The truth about it is, whether you give discount or not, it's still the same jet A14 you're going to buy for the same price. So, and of course, these airlines, they have to make their profit. I mean, it's a business. Someone put money into it and is expecting to make profit. So how do we meet them at the middle? In as much as we're looking at cheaper airfares, we also need to look at the investor, who invested, who put in money, who has operational cost, who has overhead cost he has to fulfill, who has taxes to fulfill. Otherwise, his airline might be shut down.
Okay.
So we have to look at those.
Let's tie this now. We have December. We are heading there. We have a lot of people, diaspora, non-diaspora,
Moving.
Tourists all coming in. Now we are trying to say, okay, how do we grow the economy through tourism? Now we have several other locations that we can also explore if we take out the security issues.
Okay.
So let's don't go there yet. Now, can we have a plan, we Nigerians, government, private sector, can we have a plan whereby we can ask, okay, good and fine. January to March, first quarter, we are all heading to our Gungu. That's what's going to happen. March to the next quarter, we are all heading to Calabar. That's what's going to happen. So that all year round, the aviation sector is not just waiting for December. And businesses around is just knowing that there is major festivities happening all year round. That way we know that we're not just waiting for oil to get FX.
But these festivities or these festivals that you spoke about, there are things that are already there.
Yeah, a lot of them are dead.
Well, some of them are not.
On paper.
And they're still working. We talked about a few this year.
Yes, we did.
And they were very, very active. And whenever they came out to celebrate, it's a buzz. We've seen it. So that it will be the initiators, the managers of those festivals will be the one to sustain it. If the government is going to do that to make sure that we have our own carrier, I think having our own carriers will be a good decision. But the government has not shown itself capable of managing that enterprise. And it is a very, very bad thing. Because if you have not shown yourself, then we look at Ethiopia, then we're looking at Kenya, and we are unable to do that because of what? Politics and personal interest. It doesn't say very well for us. We have the market. In this December, imagine we have domestic or national carriers, and we have fleet of aircraft. The Nigerians that will be coming in from the US, from the UK, you name it, from Germany, I mean from other African countries into the country. Because we know that this is government operated, it's going to be run in a way that we are going to make profit. But this is the government who have some level of monopoly. We can beat down our price to a specific level and attract all the passengers in any festive season that are coming home or leaving home back to abroad between January, February, March to patronize the domestic airline, not only the national carriers. And when they do that, not only it becomes a huge source of resource for the government, but it also facilitates some form of confidence by the customers who will be using these, because we need to provide a service that is commensurate with what is obtainable by private airlines, but this one is nationally owned, But because we are taking advantage of the massive population, we beat down the price, not charging the same way that the foreign and commercial airlines will do. In that, yeah, I don't think it is aeronautical science.
It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket
Okay.
science. It's something we can do as a country. But when we see that we can't do it, it begins to make people to have a second thought. Now, this is a government. You have all the brains. You have all the equipment. You have all the hands to do this. Why is it not going this direction?
Can I stop you there? Did the government tell you that they have all the brains?
I'm sure they do.
Okay. That is subjective.
Okay.
Olumide, one last word from you before we move ahead. Why do we have plane tickets, national, local, and international plane tickets from Nigeria more expensive than other countries? Why have we had that for a very long time? People now just go to Ghana and fly to Europe or fly to the US or fly to Canada. It's cheaper than flying directly from Nigeria.
Yeah, well, like I said, earlier on, the NCAA and of course the FCCPC have to come in and find a lasting solution to this. The FCC can come in from the angle of the consumer, while the NCAA can come in from the angle of the airlines and see how they can, try as much as possible to see. Now, from what I read, I was even surprised that the amount for tax is even lower. So what I'm seeing here is 25% goes to aviation fuel, which is about 52,000 from the 225 that we calculated. So I think it has to do with more of the aviation fuel than the taxes. So how can we now reduce cost for airlines? But then again, reason why it could also be some form of diplomatic. I don't want to go that route, because you said it also, which I've also heard, that it's even cheaper to fly from Ghana, abroad than to fly from Nigeria. So people are now going to Ghana. People are even going to other countries to fly. Why? Is because it's cheaper. And you begin to wonder, is it that these international airlines deliberately do this to cash out, like you said, or what is going on? And even when we had our own local airline, we know what it took for him to, land in London. We know all the hurdles, everything. It was like the whole world was against him just because one man decided that, okay, I'm going to be flying Nigerians abroad. So I think it now has to do with it's a whole lot of things involved. That's why I said, then how strong is our diplomatic ties? Because these are some of the things that we should be also looking at.